That sounds good. Lunchtime is the only time I can write these days, and so I'm finishing up a chapter.
I hear you.
I feel like a true artist and writing on my lunch break.
Okay, I think we're here.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. So good to be here.
Good to be. It's been a while since we've seen each other's faces.
I know. It's been a very long time.
How you
and
been?
Spoken word to each other's ears. Hello.
How you been?
I've been very well, actually. Yeah. I love living up in Hudson Valley. It's beautiful here, like ridiculously gorgeous at every season of the year. And that has provided some great inspiration and also just opportunity to explore the writing angle of my creative aspirations. I haven't been on stage at all or even really interacted with the stage since Sweet Tea, but the memories of Sweet Tea keep that love alive in my heart, and now I'm telling stories in a different way.
Hooray! So tell us, because it's been a while since you've been in Fayetteville. It's been a minute. So tell us about you. Tell us who you are. Tell us your connection to Sweet Tea and what you're doing now and all of that.
Okay. My name is Ruth Nelson. I participated pretty heavily in Sweet Tea when I was living in Fayetteville. I was a drama teacher for a while at the Capitol Encore Academy, and I was not in the very first show of Sweet Tea. I wasn't in the first season, but I was in the second season, and evolved pretty consistently from then on. From someday I'm going to write my memoirs, and it's going to be called From Juliet to Desdemona, Living and Dying for Love. Because my first Sweet Tea role was Juliet, and my last onstage role was Desdemona. And so I got to play some incredible dream parts that I never would have even thought I could play. The chief and my best onstage experience ever being Prospero in The Tempest in 2015, I believe that was. I also did some directing for Sweet Tea. I was the master of word, so I did some dramaturgical duties and researched a lot and helped people kind of translate these stories to the stage. I did some directing. Did I already say that?
Yeah. Some
directing, some writing. And of course, like every Sweet Tea person, got to do everything. Got to do the props and the costumes and the lights and the sound and even some writing. So it was a wonderful, wonderful community to be a part of. But in 2017, my husband Caleb and I, moved up north to be closer to his family, and also just to really pursue a quieter way of life. We both kind of quit our full-time jobs and moved up here to help build the R.A. Nelson writing business. And we've been through many different adventures and things beyond that, but we are both still working a lot of part-time gigs to support our artistic goals and really enjoying the beauty of this place, enjoying the proximity to family, and enjoying the quieter pace of life than we've ever had before. It's been very rich and borne great fruit.
It's very good. Very good. So tell us a bit more about R.A. Nelson writing. Tell us what that is.
R.A. Nelson writing is my brand. I decided that if it worked for J.K. Rowling and C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien, that it could work for me too. So Caleb, my husband, and I decided that my pen name could be R.A. Nelson. Not to be confused, there is an R.A. Nelson, a gentleman who writes young adults like vampire erotic romance novels. I am not he.
That's good to know. I might have confused that actually.
yes, not.
Those of us who know you know that would not be the fit that we would have predicted.
It's just not my forte, you know. But I write kind of a plethora of things. I write poetry, but I am first and foremost a novelist. I have a coming of age kind of young adult trilogy based very closely on my experiences studying abroad at Oxford when I was in college. And that is the Gatekeeper trilogy. And it kind of follows one young woman as she becomes a young woman and travels around Europe and has many adventures. And then I always knew that fantasy was going to be my sweet spot, my home base, so to speak. And so I wrote and published The Ancient in 2018. That is to quote the tagline, a historical fantasy of mythic proportions. And it is a deeply mythologically based fantasy that is set for the most part at a monastery in Ireland in the 10th century. So lots of historical research and also lots of mythological research, kind of my retelling of certain myths and casting it in a broader context. I have since been writing a more contemporary fantasy series. I have completed book 1 and I'm working on about halfway done with book 2. It's going to be a 5-book series. I've got it all planned out. But I decided to kind of press pause on the self-publishing angle of things and try to get an agent. So I am querying this fantasy series with lots of different agents. I've been querying for about a year. So any querying authors out there, I am with you. I feel you. It's a hard, long road. And it honestly kind of sucks sometimes. But you know what? You keep going, you keep trying, and you keep writing, because nobody can stop me from doing that. So I'll do what I want. But in the meantime, I'm still putting out, still keeping my self-published brand alive. So I just released a new poetry book, Songs in the Garden. It is right here. And it's my second poetry collection. The first one was Songs in the Gate, poems from the borderland between now and not yet. And this is Songs in the Garden, poems from the land of becoming. And these were, I put out Songs in the Gate in 2018, right after we'd finally settled in the Hudson Valley. And so this book is very much the past 3 years living in the Hudson Valley and kind of settling into a very different pace of life than I was accustomed to in Fayetteville. And the challenges of that and the growth that happened from that and the fruit that came from kind of throwing everything in my life up in the air and then seeing what landed in my hands and what landed all around me. Yeah.
So that sounds like you're describing the move up north as a sort of redefining, which is something that we're interested in around here these days. I mean, sort of globally and locally. Lots of things are being redefined. So it sounds like you may have had a little bit of a prophetic move up north, and done it before most of the rest of us were required to by COVID.
I do. I will confess, over the past year and a half or so of the pandemic, I felt like I was looking around and everybody was, going through something that I had gone through in the previous 2 years. And I thought, well, I have hope. I have hopeful news. You do come through. It is possible to come through the dark and the enforced quiet and to have it bear rich fruit, rich growth.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I've sort of done the same thing. I felt like I was a little bit ahead, not as ahead as you were, but I was a little bit ahead. So I'm like looking around at everybody and like, it's sort of like a what's your problem moment. It's like, some of us have figured this out a minute ago and y'all need to catch up. That doesn't last too long, but there's some, I think artists that's their job. They're like so sensitively attuned to the universe in ways that they don't even understand. So they get there ahead of some other folks sometimes, so we're so Sweet Tea is sort of engaged in a renaissance of our own. I actually spent the morning, all mornings, but I spent the morning today, we're doing some staff realignments and project planning and all that. So we've got some new and exciting things happening, and I think new and exciting is sort of the order of the day for artists. I mean, some of us, we've been shut indoors, and that's not good for theater people, but it is good for writers. And so one of the things that excites me is that we're sort of, I hope, entering into a bit of a renaissance,
Mm.
the roaring 20s of a different kind, where, there's been this bottleneck and people have been bottled up and sort of forced to deal with themselves for a while in ways that they maybe haven't, and also had a different kind of time and a
Mm.
different kind of reflective space and things of that nature. So I want to ask what COVID's been like for you, and how this book of poetry sort of speaks to any of that, and about what's coming next. I mean, gardens are
Mm.
things that grow after things die, and so
Right.
there's that connection. But sort of tell us what life's been like for you lately, and
Hmm.
how this book speaks into that.
Yes. Well, when we moved, one of the biggest changes was that I went from working full time outside the home to part time inside the home. So I went from being gone all day, every day, in a variety of places, being around a whole lot of people, to being by myself at home every day, all day, until whenever Caleb was at work. And so uh, that was a huge shift for me. And so, but I had a good 2 years of that really before the pandemic hit. And so I felt like for me, I went through my difficult adjustment period in 2019. I had some severe, I dealt with some pretty severe anxiety issues. I was really struggling with sense of identity and self-worth, because I've been driven for so long by productivity oriented self-esteem, and realizing that even if I don't produce anything that I can point to or anything quantifiable in the course of a day, it is not a wasted day. And I am not a waste of space as a human being. And so I kind of dealt with all of that in 2019. And so by the time 2020 hit, I felt like I had hit my stride. I was blooming. I was figuring out. I was on the good end. I was in the growth part. Like 2019 was my winter. 2018 and 2019 were my fall and my winter, where things went into the ground and died. And 2020 coming into 2021 has been a time more of spring and of looking forward to possible harvest. My life wasn't really. I recognize this all comes from a place of privilege and even luxury, because my employment and my living circumstances were not affected at all by the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I worked from home anyway, and my husband's job was not affected, and so I was very grateful for that. But kind of felt like that the world was now entering into a time of quiet, and so now I had the opportunity to speak into that, like you were saying, having already kind of come through the dark part myself, to be able to maybe offer some light and hope to others. So this poetry collection, I wanted to have a place where I could, how do I say this? Poetry is it's my heart language. I have even called it my prayer language. I reflect on the world, and reflect on scripture and on my faith. I'm a very religious person. I reflect on all of that through poetry. And when things are happening in my life that are overwhelming, it comes out through poetry. It's my way of dealing with it. It's almost like self-therapy. And so this 2018 and 2019 had a lot of poetry, so much poetry came out of those times. And so I felt like if I'm going to almost give like a handbook to people of how to navigate the times of what feels like death, and see it as winter, and see it as the presage to spring and to blooming and to growth, then I should just share all of these poems, because they were my lifeline and my trail of breadcrumbs out of the dark. But it's an ongoing process. That's the whole idea. So by no means is the book the be all and end all handbook, but it's a guide for certain stops along the way. I believe.
So, do you have a piece you want to share with us?
I do. Got, oh, there's a few. But I guess the flagship poem of the collection is the first poem, and it's one that I wrote in the spring of 2018. So we had just moved up, and I was just at the beginning of realizing how long it was going to take me to heal, really, from just the relentless barrage that my life had been for the past decade and a half or so. And we were walking on one of the beautiful, beautiful regions around in the Hudson Valley, and I felt the first line of this poem started niggling away at my brain, and the rest of the afternoon I wrote this poem in my head, and it was a very thorny, difficult poem to extract from the soil of my subconscious, but when it was out, it kind of gave me a hint of what the next few years were going to be like. So it is called The Patient, and it is very short. What physic can reclaim a driven soul, still writhing under convalescent sheet? 'Tis time that she be forced to sit and dream, time for picking out each self-strained seam, time to trust her weight to freedom's beam, till waiting makes of her a holy seat, that she may bear the weight of being whole.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, this, I don't know, it's really resonating with me right now, because, we're in this moment where we've had to wait, like all stress has been self-induced. And, and like, here we are, like in a moment where, and this is not true for all of us. I just want to echo what you said earlier about privilege, but because there are some people who've been grinding the whole time.
Yeah.
But I think even I think this is true for everyone on some level, that there has been a shift, right? That, even if we're still grinding away, that there has been a shift, an invitation to sort of look at priorities, and even if we're sort of still sort of approaching the world as a panic, the call of COVID, I think, has been to not do that. And I don't want to make light of COVID, because you can make meaning out of really stupid, awful, tragic things, and that's not always a good thing to do. But I do think that the sort of for artist types like us, the invitation has sort of been to be sensitive to that. Patient is I'll use the word again, prophetic sort of thing to have, kind of at the center of our image, the image at the center of our minds at a moment like this. I will say, in the last few years, Sweet Tea has, I won't say the last few years. I'll say right now, we've been thinking about what seeds we want to plant, and sort of what that's going to mean, sort of going forward, and what kind of growth we're trying to monitor. And one of those projects is, I mentioned it to you the other day, I think, no one knows this. I think we've said it to like 3 people, but Jake French is working on an album for us. It's all covers, but I listened to one track, so he's been working on it. And Owen Eddy, who is like our sort of resident composer. He lives in Hawaii. He wasn't in Fayetteville, and he PCS'd out. So we're working on something, and the concept behind the stuff is the word wake, and like that as a pun for all of the things that it could mean. Wake is in the thing you sit, at a funeral. Wake is in waking up. Wake is in the ocean pulsing in and out. Wake is in needing to wake up. And so all of our selections are tied to everything springtime. I mean, like, you've been asleep for a while and you're waking up, and like getting into the other things, rites of spring, fertility, gardens. So we're trying to sort of process this moment that way. And I'm looking forward to it. I heard one of the songs the other day. It's got some good energy. So, I expect we're going to see a lot of that. Like we've been depressed now for a season. And here is the next, like, that's always going to be part of our story, but here's the moment, like, where we're starting to anticipate the next thing. If that makes sense? The becoming, as you say in your title.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. Yes.
So I hear what you're working on. I hear your next projects. You're becoming agented. Is that a word? I just made it up. Agented?
Yes. Represented. Advocated for.
What else are you looking forward to?
Ooh, that's a good question. Traveling, when that's a thing again. I've explored a wee bit of Europe in my time, but my husband has not. And so I would like to, I'm looking forward to us someday exploring Europe together. And we're just sort of taking life on a day by day sort of thing. I'm looking forward to a lifetime of writing. It's really been coming home to me more and more lately that regardless of whether or not people read it, regardless of where I am or what other work I have, this is what grounds me. I actually wrote a poem on Sunday called Because I Must, and it was about why I write. I write because I must. And so I'm looking forward to always having that kind of as my constant and to learning, to becoming, to kind of living always in a state of becoming. I think that's important too, like never having, there's a poem in here called Breathe, where I say, I need to learn that like arriving means come further up, come further in. It's a Lewis quote from Narnia. Like you never have really arrived. When you arrive, you realize that you're still going. So there's always further to grow. So doing that and helping as many people as interact with me to approach that. And I think we've talked a lot about in the past. I remember talking to you about wonder, about the concept of wonder, and how that really, whenever there's like anything bad or sad or horrible in the world, I feel like a lack of a sense of wonder, a sense of awe, and I feel like that's corresponded in that relates to this wake idea. Like if I could share one message with the world, it would be, wake up to the wonder of every moment, the wonder of everything around you and of everyone around you, and see it from a place of expectancy and awe as opposed to defeat or anger, or that there would be, that all of our interactions and all of our efforts would come from a place of wonder.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I mean, something that's been on my mind a lot lately has just been, it's been on my mind a lot lately because I have been guilty of it for my entire life, which is like, let's address the world like it's something to be fixed. Which is not to say that there aren't things in the world that don't need to be fixed, but like that posture can be really destructive. I mean, in your own brain and body and experience, what that does is destroy everything. Like your perspective is destroying everything. You see it as broken, so that's the identity you're assigning it, and everything is an improvement to make, and you're the savior of it if you're not careful, and that can be that's our political life, that's our work life, and like that doesn't have to be our life. Do you know what I mean? Right. I mean, there are parts of our world where that has to happen, and parts of our world where we can choose for it to be different. And so, hooray! Thank you. Hooray. Would you mind reading that Breathe poem for us?
Sure.
Or if there's another one you'd prefer, that's fine too.
Sure. Yeah. this is another kind of flagship poem in terms of like my life vision and my vision as a writer, but I think it works for a lot of artists too. And it's called Soar or the Falcon. I was made to soar on words, whose love-swept current undergirds my wings, but now, midst loud unheards, which roar in gusts too strong for birds, I'm blown off course, and helpless driven, on before the daily given, daily from my roots more riven, flailing for a life worth living. But I was made to plumb the deeps, to sound the bell where wonder sleeps, and wake, but now the buzzer beeps so stridently, its screeching keeps me sleeping in a muted blur, still hoping rest will soon confer with purpose, making visions stir the pot of simmering dreams that were once boiling, till they overflow, to coat my soul in powdered snow, beneath my winter blanket growing slowly, till the world will know that I was made to soar on high, to dive more deeply than I sigh. Though buzzers howl and tempests cry, I'll touch the depths and take the sky.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, just listening to that, like, so one of the things that I love about your work is that it could be written now, or it could be written 40 years ago, or 400 years ago, and I like that very much. And actually, as you were reading, I was thinking about other, you use the word wake, you use the word tempest, and you use the word dream. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that Shakespeare soup is something you've swum in quite a bit. And actually, it was specifically making me think of we just opened Much Ado About Nothing last week, our first post-COVID show. And there's a lot about waking up in that show of different kinds. And we're turning our page to Midsummer. We started rehearsals for that Monday night because we're nuts, as you know. And the waking up and the dreams of that. And that's the dramatic realization, right? Is like I'm going to go through some sort of becoming process. And at the end of that becoming process, I better be smarter, more complete, more human, more empathetic, more something than I was when I went in. And that's the sort of, I guess, the cosmic invitation. And those of us who are sort of in, or have been ever, I'm not saying I'm in tune right this second, but I'm saying those of us who know what being in tune means, with that, sort of work, like calling other people to that. So I'm excited to hear that from you, and excited to know that is in your book. So can I ask how people buy this thing, and also, like, beyond buying, how do they become a fan, an apostle, an appropriate stalker of your stuff? How do they do that?
Yes, that's a good question. If you visit my website, arinelsonwriting.com, that has all sorts of things. There's a contact form on there, so you can contact me through that. You can subscribe to my blog. You can sign up for my newsletter. Not my newsletter, my email list. Email list is the way that my email list is the one. They're the folks who know what's what. They know what's coming before it comes, and I keep them updated on all of my adventures. You can also follow me on social media. And I post every time I do a blog or a new book is coming out, or even I just post some random poetry videos on there because I feel like sharing that with the world. I'm on Instagram at Ari Nelson Writing, and I'm on Twitter at RuthNelson8410. And I'm on Facebook, of course, Ari Nelson Writing, facebook.com/Ari Nelson Writing. So I try to stay pretty active on there. And if you find me on any of those things and reach out to me, then I will get you plugged in. Post haste.
And I would just say, for those of you out there in the universe who, like, you read a lot, you read the poetries, you read the novels, you're like able to actually talk with a person who will, like, pick up the proverbial phone, or email, as it were. That's good. And, like, as we said, Ruth R.A. Nelson is in the process of agenting, which is another word I just invented, and like it may be that you get in to the sort of like apostle circle of R.A. Nelsonhood now, and then R.A. Nelson will have an agent, and who knows, like buy the stock now is what we're saying.
Get in on the ground floor and ride my coattails all the way to glory.
Yes, and I just want to say this, if you happen to be an agent,
yes,
and were to like sign R.A. Nelson, what I can guarantee for you is lifetime season tickets to Sweet Tea Shakespeare. So just
hey,
that's what I can do for you. That's what I can contribute to this conversation.
Great deal.
So I just if you're out there watching us on the YouTube, I gotcha.
Yes. Har har. Hear hear. Not har har. Hear hear. Huzzah! As it were.
So how's Caleb? Is Caleb good?
Caleb is great. Yes. He's he still does some music he leads the music at our church, and I'm hoping that we're kind of entering into a season of maybe him exploring some more of his musical giftings. He needs to get his music out into the world, so he's got some good gifts. Looking forward to seeing how he shares them in his own process of becoming.
Very good. It's interesting, like so in the last 2 years, we have welcomed another couple that's a little like you and Caleb in that he works for a church and leads music and is in a band on the side, and she sings and helps lead music at the church, and she's also a writer. And anyway, it's just interesting, all the things that circle back.
I am glad.
One thing goes to bed and another thing wakes up, and that is true everywhere.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, thank you, my friend.
Because I have a meeting to run to. But
yes, and I'm doing pickup duty. I'm going down to Capital Encore Academy to pick up my eldest. So she is working on a play actually this week there. So
my heart.
Hooray!
Give them my love.
I will. Well, it's good to see you, my friend.
You too. Thank you so much.
Congratulations on the new book, and I hope it continues to sell smashingly. Friends out there, thank you for joining us. Thanks to the Arts Council of Fayetteville, Cumberland County. If you're interested in Ruth's, R.A. Nelson's work, ranelson.com and all of the socials.
Writing.com.
That's right on the screen, and I said it wrong anyway. Yes. ranelsonwriting.com, and all the socials are posted below this video in all of the things. So you can follow all day long to your heart's content. Become a fanatic. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for sharing with us.
Thank you for having me. It's been delightful.
Indeed. Enjoy the rest of your time. I will send you status reports from all the wonderful things you're doing, and I know the opposite will be true. So, hooray! Thank you.
Hooray! Thank you. Take care and Godspeed.
TTFN.